Hello, welcome back to Search Sean. This is another Chat with Sean episode. And yeah, well, obviously, you know who I'm joined by, you see. But I've got to say, because I didn't actually say to Craig before we started, but still to this very day, it's the most viewed video on the whole channel. And it was like, we've posted quite a few good videos since and a lot of popular ones, but still number one. And I really appreciate that because you really helped push the channel up at that stage. And a lot of people want to hear what you got to say. So, hopefully it'll be another cracker. We'll do the intro as usual. And many people would know who Craig is, but Craig Campbell has been working in digital marketing for over 22 years now, from freelancer to agency owner, affiliate marketer, buyer and seller of digital assets. He's spoken at all the major conferences all over the world, built obviously a very popular YouTube channel, sharing real lessons, and runs linksforyou.com, a link building and digital PR agency powered by years of industry connections and expertise. So, thanks for joining me again. Really, really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. It's always a pleasure to have a chat. And I don't do too many of these, believe it or not. I talk enough in my own channel, but it's always nice to come on and just have a gab on someone else's. It's different from doing it in your own channel. It's nice to just sit and relax and not worry too much about how it all goes and all the editing and everything else that goes through your head, or even the person showing up. You're like, is this bastard going to show up? So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's weird, isn't it, when you the editing is a pain in the backside. There's no doubt about it, but it's part of the thing, I guess. And I actually find it weird when I'm not on someone else's podcast, like not being a host, and I have to actually think of answers. So I think it's harder being in your seat, to be honest. But you're good at it, so that helps. Yeah. In terms of, let's get into the topics, and some are very generic and obviously some are more specific, but generally the state of search now, it's just rapidly advancing. Like every day there's new things coming out. Only yesterday was about agentic in Chrome browser and stuff. Like, what do you make of the current state of search?
I think it's interesting is probably the word to use. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people see constant change and, it's happening very, very quickly. I am enjoying seeing what these things can do and what they can do to help us, and how I can implement these things into my own businesses and make my life easier, quicker, faster, more efficient. And, even recently I was playing around with something called Claudebot, which is a kind of AI personal assistant for you. It can clean up your email inbox. It can even check you in for flights and all of that kind of stuff. Now, obviously one thing we've all been messing around with this, that and the next thing that, with everything that's come out in the past while. I am still scared. Like, so for example, Claudebot, would I let that clean my own inbox? Would I let that check me in for flights? Would I let that go and do day-to-day business tasks for me? No, I wouldn't, because there's so many mistakes with it just now. I think the future is going to be interesting, but I think also too many people are looking for the next shiny object and they're blowing it all up out of all proportion. And probably in the last year to 18 months, I've been down many rabbit holes with different things. And you've spent like 3 months on it, doing this and doing that. And then you're going, how the fuck does this actually help me? Does this make me money? Is it helping free up time? Or are we just doing this just for the sheer hell of it? And I think there's a lot of that going on as well. So I'm trying to pick and choose what I choose to believe in, what I test. But I think it's certainly interesting times, and I think they're getting better and better by the day, the week, the month. So it's certainly interesting times, and I think it's scary for certain people. Even web developers and stuff. You can turn up a website now very, very quickly with a lot of the SaaS and the tools and everything that's out there just now. So there is certainly need for worry for certain people with certain things, but for me, I find it exciting because it's all about speed. cost saving and everything else for me, because over the years I've always been kind of let down by people, and not necessarily the ideas or anything. It's just websites take too long, content's a pain in the ass, this, that, next thing. So if we can use these things to make things move a little bit more, then I'm definitely excited by it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think what you touched upon is true. Like, there's definitely two camps where they're downplaying AI or afraid of it, or they're literally blowing up to like too far, probably. And there's probably a fine balance there. But there are a lot of people, even I work with, and I get it. I totally get it. That don't even want to go near AI for many reasons, like environmental or just kind of their own morals and stuff behind it. But like, I do think if you don't take advantage of it, you're going to be stuck in a few years' time with no job, and you just won't be able to. Like now, you can't walk around anywhere without needing the internet to do something, And it's going to be a few years' time where it'll be the same with AI. Everything's going to be integrated AI. You won't be able to escape it. It'll just be part of life. And
even basic stuff like creating a thumbnail for a podcast. You can go and type in a prompt and it shits it out for you. That's magnificent. I think that's magnificent. I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not concerned about it, but I just think I see it as opportunity. So that's kind of my mindset on it. But I'm obviously careful now in terms of how many man hours I put into stuff that doesn't add value. So I try and let other people jump in first, and then if something's really good, then I'll go down a rabbit hole. Absolutely no problem. But I'm sick and tired of jumping into the next big thing and the next big thing. That's painful. So yeah.
No, I'm the same. And in terms of like, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, because it seems like I was just talking on the show I do with Amanda Walls and around, it seems like when Google released recently the new like Gemini stuff and the Nano Banana stuff, and it really impressed a lot of people. And then OpenAI, Sam Altman literally said they're on red alert now because they're like shitting themselves because it's so advanced and better than what they were doing. It feels like now Google are just accelerating at a different level to kind of just kill off OpenAI once and for all. That's what it feels like to me. I don't know what your predictions are for the rest of the year.
I mean, Google have got the funds to quash anyone, and are they going to let OpenAI or whoever come in and try and steal their money, essentially, or their business? They're not. They've got the funds, they've got the resources to be able to do things 10 times faster than most other people and companies and stuff. So, it's either Google roll over and let OpenAI steamroller ahead, or they do things faster, better, more in depth and everything. So obviously we never know. I'm sure it's always a good ongoing fight, who comes out with the best this and the best that, and again, that's exciting for us because we get better things to play with and better output from what we do. So but yeah, very hard to predict who will win that one, because you just never know.
Yeah, where do you see, like, obviously the agentic's being rolled in quite a lot, personalized, results, and personalization generally is going to be a very big thing. It already is kind of coming into play. Where do you see things like going? Do you feel like, because we kind of work inside of a bubble, we're very interested in all this stuff, obviously, but do you think like the general public are actually going to adopt like agentic experiences, enjoy this personalized, super personalized experience? Like, what do you think user behaviors are going to be by the end of the year?
I don't think it'll move as fast as by the end of the year. A lot of people in our space are scared. We are losing traffic. People are using ChatGPT and stuff like that, but a lot of people don't know what the fuck ChatGPT is. They don't know what AI is. They've no clue. I'm talking about the general guy in the street that's not in this industry. Google took 20 odd years for people just to Google shit. Now, it took a lot of time, effort, branding, forcing things onto browsers and, forcing things onto computers and all of that kind of stuff is this going to happen by the end of the year? No, I had a guy in my private mastermind, and he's like, should we be optimizing for LLMs? And people are going, yeah, future-proof your business, feed the LLMs with positive things about your business. But are we going to make money from doing that, was the guy's argument. And someone said, I had 14,000 hits on my website, and 2 of them came from ChatGPT. So I don't think things are moving as fastly as the industry suggests. Now, I do think maybe in 5 years' time, if you ask that question, absolutely, it would be a different answer. I just don't think the general public are educated in this stuff, and we are, and we're always trying to be one step ahead and one step ahead. But yeah, I mean, we are inevitably going to lose stuff. And I think even over the last 5 years, just with the amount of Google updates and everything else that's been happening, and EAT coming out, and all of this other stuff, and like you say, there's now personalised search, there's this, that, the next thing happening all the time. It's getting harder and harder and harder to get traffic, and that is on a decline. And for the past while, I've built my personal brand. I have utilised YouTube. I have utilised social media. I've utilised other things to get traffic, paid ads on some of my businesses. I don't think you can just solely rely on SEO anymore. I mean, you can. Of course there is. There's certain niches where that kind of stuff's there. But I think long term, you want to try and diversify your traffic sources. That's for sure. Don't rely, listen, I see people on TikTok doing TikTok shop. Now, I hate it. I think I don't like being sold to on TikTok and stuff like that, sold an old sponge or, the old herbal tablets and all this stuff. But there's a lot of traffic on there and people are making money. If you've got a business, why are you not on there trying to get traffic from it? Why is everyone obsessed with Google? Because it's not the only place on earth that people go. So, I think diversifying your traffic sources has always been something I've always tried to implement in recent times. And, trying to be, I go speaking at conferences. Why? Well, there's a whole bunch of people there that might be interested in what I've got to say. It's not Google, I'm in the corner. So you're always trying to do different stuff to get different traffic. And I think, that's the game going forward. And, if you're doing all of that kind of stuff overall, I think you'll have a nice mix of traffic sources, and that's a nice place to be. But obviously people, and I'm one of those guys, I've been an SEO for a long, long time. I don't want to see SEO crash and burn and say it's useless anymore. But I mean, it is going downhill. That's a fact. You have to change things up and learn other things and learn about AI. And, are we all going to be ChatGPT and everything in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, or something else that comes out, or Gemini and everything, or whatever it may be? Who knows? So, yeah, it's. I don't think it's going to be by the end of the year we're going to lose 45% of our traffic or anything. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, last time you was on, we did talk about diversifying your traffic, and it's got even worse in many ways, and even more stronger point that you need to do that. So, like you say, I guess you should be using your SEO skills to optimize these areas like YouTube and stuff, and taking advantage of that. And also, like you say, like if you only rely on, I always use this example, but say you're like a restaurant. You only rely on footfall to get customers, you're walking past, and you're not doing any forms of that. You don't go on Deliveroo and Uber Eats and stuff. That you're missing a whole audience of different traffic to get, why wouldn't you do that? So yes, definitely the case. And I still think websites will have their place for information retrieval and stuff. Like they're still going to be needed in that case. But I guess you could build that information in other places that you could retrieve from. So, yeah.
The LLMs are pulling information from a multitude of different sources. It's not just the website. They need it corroborated on, even if it's social media, on certain financial websites or whatever, regulatory bodies. So again, for me, it's not just about shoving stuff in your website. You maybe have to optimize on other websites or on other assets, like you say. a different platform, whether it be YouTube, whether it be podcasts, and doing your keyword research and making sure that your podcast is optimized for something that people are going to search for and stuff like that. So yeah, I think just optimizing is optimizer is the best word, not just SEO. Just optimize things to get maximum exposure.
Yeah, like you say, no, it's a good point, because I think it's about controlling the narrative. Like, you want to be in control. You don't want it to be, them taking everything about you from like a third party source that you don't really have much control over.
Yeah.
But obviously, if that's on your socials or whatever, then it doesn't matter. But you just got to be in control of it. In terms of like, I saw your kind of stuff around knowledge panels, talking about controlling the narrative, and what are the kind of key things that people should be considering around that? What have you found out recently about all that?
I mean, there's not much different I can add to knowledge panels. Again, it's very, very similar to LLMs and stuff. If you want to have a knowledge panel, you need to be cited on trusted sources. So it's very, very similar to feeding the LLMs. And, you're talking about Wikidata. You need to be listed in Crunchbase. You need to have social media accounts and all, maybe a Google book, the various trusted sources that are out there to trigger that knowledge panel. And, again, you need to protect your brand, because if you don't, someone else could brandjack you, someone else could say shit about you. And that's, you want to control the narrative, and you want to control everything, including the imagery and everything else that goes on in a knowledge panel. So, again, you're not feeding the knowledge panel images from your website. You're saying, here's an image on Flickr, here's an image on, Amazon author profile, whatever. It has to come from third-party trusted sources for knowledge panels. It's not enough for you to say that you're King Kong or you're the best entrepreneur or whatever it's going to be. You need other people to be saying that about you, and it needs to be cited on those other websites. And if not, then you're not going to trigger your knowledge panel. So being on, the likes of Wikidata, claiming your knowledge panel so that someone else can't claim it in your behalf. But the one thing I always talk about is, it's all good and well going away and getting Wikidata and everything else. One thing that no one ever told me was you can't edit your own fucking Wikidata. Now, I got a guy to do the Wikidata thing for me, and he put in my details and all that stuff. And it came back, and I looked at the profile, and I'm like, he's not added my Instagram, and he's not added this, that, and the next thing. So I've logged in, added all the shit, filled it all out, and within a day, the Wikidata profile was taken down. So I messaged the guy, and I'm like, you fucking scammer, you fucking taking my money, what a fucking shit job you've done. And he's like, no. And he went away and checked it out. And obviously the account was banned because I fucking edited it. And I'm like, what's the problem? It's me. The profile's about me. Surely if anyone's going to put information on the internet about me, it should be me. And he's like, nah, that's not how Wikidata works. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that before? And he's like, I thought you knew. And I'm like, no one ever talks about these little nuances. So I lost a few knowledge panels, doing that and going in and, steamrolling in and adding all my own shit. A lot of that stuff has to be done by a trusted account that's not you. So you need to bear little things like that in mind. That, there's always people say, go and get listed here and go and get listed there. But, there's little nuances in the mix as well. And it's the same as Wikipedia and other things like that. You can't just go on and rattle out a page saying that you're God's gift to everyone. They're wanting citations that you're claiming to be the best at this, or, there was some PR about you saying that you're the best at this or whatever, and you really need to be noteworthy to be on Wikipedia as well. So, there's lots of different little things that, with knowledge panels that you need to do. And there's a great website out there called calicube.pro. And you go there and it will tell you what websites you need to be listed on. And it will tell you Crunchbase, it will tell you Google Books, it will tell you Amazon. And it's up to you to reverse engineer that. How did I get on Amazon? Well, you can go and, launch a book and get an Amazon author profile. Easy peasy. That's you get Amazon. So, just a lot of the knowledge panel stuff is kind of common sense. But also one other little tip, because I'm going to make the assumption a lot of people who listen to your podcast are SEO people. Wikidata and stuff do not like SEO people. So calling yourself an SEO consultant or an SEO is one surefire way to not to get your account banned. Because we manipulate a lot of stuff, we fuck around with a lot of stuff, and they hate us for it. So you see a lot of the well-known people, if you go and look at Neil Patel or whatever, under their name on the knowledge panel, it says they're an entrepreneur or an author or something like that. I tried many times to get the knowledge panel, and I was insistent I was going to be an SEO. And I had to give up in the end because they weren't having it, man. And I tried everything. And that was the biggest. Someone said to me, that word alone is going to get you wiped out. They'll just take you down, take you down, take you down. And obviously I get it. A bit of maturity tells you, right, fuck it. You don't want to try and prove the world wrong. You're just going to continually get hammered and hammered and hammered and get your shit pulled down. So that's another little tip I would say to people, like, don't call yourself an SEO. Make it entrepreneur, business leader, business whatever, businessman, businesswoman, author, something like that. Look at what the other guys are doing, because I didn't really see that. And then when I kept getting taken down and that person said to me, I went and done research and I looked at like I say, Neil Patel and various other guys. And I'm like, fuck. And there's only maybe one or two people that have SEO professional there. And one of them is Alida Solis, who's, arguably as well known as anyone in the industry. And they've maybe let that one slide under the radar, but I've obviously spoken a lot about knowledge panels and manipulation and stuff. So I think my name's on some dirty blacklist. Whereas Alida's is probably a lot more natural. And they've let her slip under the radar, but very few SEOs have that on there.
Yeah. You have to be careful with Wikipedia and other things like that, because I've been banned a few times. You don't put the right things and give the right reasons for changes and things like that, you can easily get just kicked off. And there's been some really interesting examples that I put on. I did a whole video about Wikipedia actually, because I don't think of it that highly, to be honest. I think it's very outdated sort of thing. Well, it's got a lot of power. It still has a lot of power and authority, but there's been examples where people, like you say, have had some very damaging information about them on their Wikipedia page. It's totally incorrect. And they wanted to change it and they couldn't. And they were blocked out of doing anything. And you're like, just a bit of a crazy concept. It's funny you said about Cadiq, because we've had Jason Barnard on recently talking about that. And it sounds really interesting. And like you say, reverse engineering things. I mean, like, for example, I haven't taken advantage of this, but SoundCloud seems to be like a very trusted source of like audio and, podcasts and stuff. And, but you don't know that until you start looking into things and reverse engineering things and that kind of stuff. So, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess that if you were starting off in SEO or digital marketing generally in this year, what would you be focused on? Because, a lot of people saying, like, say you're a junior, a lot of people saying, well, you don't even need junior staff now because AI can pretty much do the same job. But say you did get lucky enough to get a job, what would you be focusing on today, like learning and working
on? Probably learning AI, in all honesty, how it works. I don't think that stuff's going anywhere anytime soon. A junior could start in the SEO space and, get involved in, local SEO, GMB listings and all that stuff. Is that stuff going to be around in the long term? Who knows? But I think, certainly if I was a young person, I'd be trying to learn as much as I could about AI and overall marketing rather than specifics of SEO. And I think when you get a junior role in SEO, you typically start out as a content writer or doing something very, very specific to SEO. And then you do a bit of content, then you'll maybe get asked to do some links and you'll get asked to do some internal linking, and, you build up your knowledge from there. But like you say, a lot of people have got tools or automations or AI to do a lot of this stuff. So again, if junior for me, I'd be going, well, I need to know the mechanics of what I'm doing and how to manipulate it and how I can stand out from the crowd, because I don't want to be learning something like GMBs where it may or may not go down the toilet pan in 2 or 3 years, because again, then you're starting again, having to learn something else. So I think AI is something I would be looking to learn a lot more about. Now, with AI, could be anything from kind of video generation to graphics to content creation, custom GPT. There's so many opportunities within AI, or, building automations for businesses. There's so much more opportunity than that than there would be as a junior SEO, in my opinion. And I think for long-term gain, I would be probably saying position yourself there, because you don't know. I don't know how long SEO's got, and I hope it's got substantially longer. But I think it really a pivotal time for many of us going, we need to learn more about this shit. Otherwise, like you say, we're going to be out of a job in 2 years. We're going to be left with nothing. And everyone else is going to be out there all trained up and all, talking about things that we don't even know the meaning of. And it's a bit like SEO at the start as well. You didn't want to get left behind. You wanted to pile in and learn and develop as you go. And I think, with AI, no one's 10 years ahead of you. That's quite a good thing. So I would be trying to kind of start off and maybe learn about building custom GPTs to write content rather than just sitting and writing content, because those jobs are 10 a penny. And I would try and get into a position like that if it was me. But like I say, some people in the industry are like, nope, I still want handwritten content, and we're going to get junior staff, and that is exactly what they're going to be doing in the first 6 months in the job. And I'm not saying that's a wrong thing, and obviously my predictions are certainly not coming from any kind of place of trust. I don't know what's going on as much as you do or the next guy does. But, just in terms of hedging the bets, that would be what I would be trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the companies that are going to win are going to be the ones that, in a very balanced way, integrate AI into their processes and take advantage of it, whilst not losing their human touch, obviously. But
yeah,
there's no doubt that these tools are only going to get better, and are going to be able to do things that people who are just coming into the industry could do in minutes rather than hours and days. So why wouldn't you get that? So yeah, I think you were starting off, like you say, I'd look at different elements of AI. First, understand like the fundamentals, like how it grounds stuff and how it operates deep down, from the fundamentals. And then also look at like API feeds and automation, as you say, building tools, models. That's going to be like, I see the future where we that we kind of utilize it to kind of do our jobs quicker and easier and better. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, and I wouldn't want to be starting off in the industry now. Put it that way.
Fuck that. That was easy when I started, I'll tell you, compared to what it is now.
Yeah, definitely. Same. And in terms of like with AI overviews and generative search evolving so quickly, as we've been saying, how should SEOs adapt their content strategy to remain visible? Obviously, we talked about probably looking at different platforms, like diversifying where you're putting your stuff. But if, still with website content, looking at that, why would you be adapting it much? I know you're kind of skeptical about large language model optimization as such, but would you be looking at changing anything?
I mean, I think you've got to do your best and make sure that if someone is in the, I mean, AI overviews, for example, come up for a lot of informational queries. So as SEOs, we are going to lose traffic to AI overview and informational queries. People are no longer going to click on our websites. And of course, Google are not going to reward you with a click, which is a pain in the ass, but they're quite happy to take your information and throw it on there.
Would you actually say like you want to be known as a topical authority of a certain, topic? Would you still bother even doing that kind of content just so you're involved in the conversation, even if you're not linked to there? Or would you just kind of ignore it and move on to like bottom of the funnel stuff or whatever?
I think there's an argument for both, to be honest. I would probably, in terms of clicks and revenue, I think going for more commercial terms is probably what you want. Your ego would tell you, I want to be fucking listed up there. I want my name on there. Why is that motherfucker's name on there and all that stuff? But is someone going to look at an AI overview and go, oh, there's 3 or 4 names here, I'm just going to start going Googling them? Well, it's giving them an informational answer. And that's it, and sure, there will be some clicks and, maybe someone will go and Google Sean Barber or whatever, if your name's listed up there or whatever it may be. But I would probably go for more specific money terms, that I think a lot of the AI overview stuff, people are manipulating it. People are doing all the usual stuff, listicles and making sure that their name's up there for all of this kind of stuff. It's all fucking nonsense. And I think we know it's nonsense, and I think the general public over a period of time will know it's fucking bullshit as well. There's guys listed on some of this stuff that, I don't want to say too much, but they shouldn't be on there. It's a free for all right now, and I do think, I don't know when, whether it be 6 months or 2 years, but where this stuff is cited on and all that LLM manipulation, they can't use these as trusted sources anymore, because Google is literally saying so-and-so is the best at this and so-and-so is the best at that, and they're fucking not. They've never done it before in their life. Just going out there and doing a whole bunch of stuff and feeding that in does not mean you're the expert. So I think there's a lot of work to be done from Google as well in terms of what they consider someone in terms of being trusted and stuff. So I wouldn't at this stage be too heavy on it. Once it adapts and is a bit more trustworthy, then potentially I would go a bit harder at it, but I would go for more bottom of the funnel stuff for now. I think that's where the revenue is. And, if someone wants you, are they going to Google an informational query, or are they going to go for the more commercial term? Do you want a tire kicker who's just searching around for information? Probably not. So, in terms of revenue, it would be bottom of the funnel stuff. But my ego would say, if Sean Barber's up there, fuck that guy. I want on there as well. I want to beat him. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do either, but it's just how long or how far do you go with that, and it doesn't turn into money again.
Yeah, it's all like prioritization, isn't it? And how much time you got, and that kind of thing. And like you say, some of the listicles are like farcical, really, when you're seeing the top whatever, and you're like, okay, some of them, I get, and then you're like some random person, you're like, what the hell are they doing?
Top SEOs, Matt Cutts was on there. I mean, I thought that guy retired about 10 years ago. I might be wrong, but I don't even believe he's an SEO anymore. Oh, Rand Fishkin was up there as well. And you're just like, oh man, where is this fucking pulling from? And then there's some other people that have clearly just stuck their name in there as well. They're just they're not real people or whatever. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, Rand has clearly come out himself and said, I don't do SEO anymore. And yet he's still on the list. It's kind of weird. And like you're saying, like a lot of the branded stuff, I've looked at many different people's analytics. They're not even controlling or dominating their own branded stuff. So if you're not even doing that, that's like a really low hanging fruit that you should take advantage of. And in terms of like your field, obviously you're known for experimenting and pushing the boundaries, which is why a lot of people love you for what you do. But are you finding that harder to do? Do you think, I mean, obviously right now it's a bit of a minefield, and there's the possibilities, but do you think Google will cut down and make that a lot harder? And
I think they will, absolutely. I've done some recent presentations where I've said and done things and manipulated stuff just for a laugh, really, and given examples of how fucking easy it is, and I still pinch myself going, that can't be allowed. I could literally go there. I wouldn't have to spend a huge amount of time, and I could literally have the LLM saying Sean Barber's a cross-dresser, for example. And that is really worrying. But we're in its infancy, and it's not that hard. But I think Google can't just take that being said on a couple of websites. I could go out there and just buy, a couple of things saying, Sean Barber, the cross-dresser from here, and he's also involved in SEO, and loop it all together with you. Can't allow that shit to happen on a kind of long-term basis, going forward. They're going to have to figure a way out knowing what's been fucking spat out and has been manipulated and trusted and what's not. So, yeah, I can, but like I say, for the here and now, it's a free for all. So, and it's fun. Not that I'm going to do that again, by the way, but yeah, but similar to some friends, and it's been fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Lily Ray, a few others have done like experiments, and it's been, like they said, very easy to like get things showing up that are just totally not true. And yeah, so it seems like they've got a lot of sort of still open doors to go into and take advantage of. In terms of like, how do you evaluate link opportunity in 26? Because, it's questionable now how valuable links are. Obviously, like large language models are evaluating backlinks a bit differently to what Google are. It seems like on large language models, paid links will probably still have like an equal, reward for versus like earned sort of stuff. So what do you think about backlinks these days, and how important they are, but also how people should go around, building a backlink profile?
Years ago, I was always a believer that SEO was a 50-50 split between content and links. And, a link was a link, and it was just power and everything. But obviously, as time progresses, things are different. Different things at play, Google trust signals, EAT, all of this other shit is all thrown into this algorithm. So is it a 50-50 split anymore? I don't think it is. I think there's other factors at play from an SEO perspective, including traffic to a website, engagement signals, and all of that kind of stuff. And all of that stuff, there's only 100% that Google have, and they can only give up, 50-50 content links, and that's probably where the algorithm started. But they're now going to have to say, well, 20% goes to content, 20% goes to links, 20% goes in EAT stuff, 20% goes in this, and 20% goes in that. And for me, I think links, I've always been a huge fan of links. I think links are still required in really, really competitive niches, but arguably there's people out there who do great branding campaigns, who get really good on page, who get strong technical SEO, and they get so far in relatively non-competitive niches. The job for anyone is to do the least amount of work for the best possible rankings. So I'm not going to sit here and say you have to buy links, blah, 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 blah. But I operate in the iGaming niche. And, when you're operating against other casinos and people are spending millions a month on marketing, you better believe they're still fucking using links, and links still work. So it's also niche dependent and stuff like that as well, and country dependent, because I don't think we play... certainly the UK and the US algorithms are certainly more aggressive than, say, Poland, for example. You still see a lot of dodgy shit happen, and more aggression happening in other countries, and Google are not hammering them as hard as they would maybe hammer us for stuff. So I think links are, in this day and age for me, there's a lot of shitbag link sellers out there who'll sell you a link with an inflated DR, and the website doesn't rank for any keywords, it doesn't have any traffic. And I think Google can see that. So if I'm looking at link opportunities, I'm looking for a link on a website that doesn't have hundreds of thousands of outbound links, that's not easily something you can go and buy for $5 somewhere else, and it's topically relevant to what I do, and it ranks for shit and has traffic. And I think Google would look at that as well and go, well, can't just base it in DR. Who says fucking DR's anything? Because that's a DR 70 doesn't mean it's a good website. So does that website rank for keywords? Does it have traffic? And I think all of those things would go into me evaluating whether a link was of value or not. And also, like I said, the number of outbound links that are on a website. You can go and you could buy a link on MarketWatch, for example, and the DR of that, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it is, but it's quite significant. But you can get the link for $10. There's a reason that link's $10. And there's a reason why there's like 180,000 people who got outbound links on that website. Just go to Ahrefs, look at the number of outbound links. They're selling fucking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of links a day. And yes, that's a great business model for the guy that owns that website or the company that owns that website. But does it actually give you any trust, any power, any significance? No. So that, for me, a lot of people say a link is a link, and that used to be the case, but I do like to evaluate, and I'm going to use you as an example, Sean. If I want to beat you, I want links that you can't get your greasy hands on easily. Do I need to go on a podcast? Do I need to do something? Do I need to smooth someone? Do I need to do something different to get on that website? Right. I don't want you to be able to just go and get it for a tenner, because then you're going to be able to match me like for like for like for like quite easily. And, where does the difference come from? So, sometimes you have to earn links, you have to appear in podcasts, you have to say something controversial. People do it. It's no different from some of the guys that are out there. They are clearly saying shit to get their name in the papers and, get PR around about their stuff. You can earn links that way. I've done it myself. I've taken Nigel Farage's website years ago, and, why did I do that? Because I was able to earn links from it. I was able to release that story to the press and say, Nigel Farage stupidly let his domain name go. And I got publications all over the place, and I got a bit of hate from it, but I wasn't giving a shit. I was getting links from the Daily Mail and here, there and everywhere. And I would consider that earned link opportunities. I took a bit of flack for it. I'd done something controversial, but I want links that you've not got, and you might not be prepared to be in the firing line for that. And if I need to be in the firing line to get those links, and you're too much of a shitbag to do it, then I'm going to win. And some people say, Craig, you're crazy. Sometimes you need to go out with your comfort zone to get what you need to get. And it's obviously why some of these crazy guys say the most ridiculous things. And you're like, I don't actually believe you mean that. I think you're saying that because you know the value from people clipping it and publishing it and all of that kind of stuff, links and everything else. So, I think earned links and, link building in general, I think needs to be more diverse. Back in the day, again, I was a big fan of PBNs, just buying up guest posts and everything else. I think that, real PR and thinking outside the box and earning links also has to be a big part of the mix as well. And again, it's why I've gone down the route of doing what I've done. And some people probably don't realise, they're just like, there's that daft bastard that took Nigel Farage's domain name. Yeah, and I still own it. Yeah, I've done it, and yeah, publicised it. But in terms of the links I acquired for doing that, if I was to go and pay a PR company, I'd have probably had to pay £500,000 for that level of coverage. And yes, I got abused for it, but was it worth the Was it worth it? I would say so. So it's, it's just what you're comfortable with and how far you're prepared to push the boundaries. And yes, people say, Craig, you shouldn't have done that, and you're a bad man, and we're all bad men then. We're all trying to get something. We're all trying to get exposure. I was just quite happy to, I soon seen an opportunity and thought, from a link perspective, I'm having some of this. And that's where I think, just being creative. I don't want to do anything illegal, because I did speak to a lawyer and I'm like, what can I do and what can't I do? And they're like, don't ever put anything on that website that he said that he hasn't said, because they'll be waiting to sue you. So the website is still there. It's still exactly as he had it when he owned it. There's not a single fucking thing being said on there. So legally, they can't touch me. But obviously, I'm at the tip of the iceberg where I'm sure his legal team are watching going, I'm going to fucking nail his balls to the mast. The minute he steps out of line, I ain't stepping out of line. I got what I wanted, man. And, again, it was a double whammy. So I'd done that. And then I think last year or the year before, Faraj was out again. He was trying to do something and someone threw a milkshake over him. It was all over the press. And I put the Khalees song, the milkshake song, on the homepage of that website and released it to all the papers. And all the publications were like, SEO prankster, Craig Campbell, nice big link in there, has made a mockery of Nigel Farage again, blah, 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 ha, 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 and all that stuff. Again, I got a fucking big double whammy. So every time Nigel Farage sets his foot wrong, I'm getting hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of links. So yeah, it's for me, that's just being creative. And again, not everyone might agree with it, but I'm earning links and I've got to be doing something.
Wow, I didn't know that story. That was really interesting. And how, without, you haven't got to say, but was it expensive? And has he approached you since to try and buy it? Or
yeah, his team approached me. It was all over the papers. The team got in touch and said, listen, we want our domain name back. We've been looking for that for a number of years. We fell out with a web developer and he's just let it go. Give us it back. And I'm like, well, what's in it for me? And they're like, well, we'll get Nigel to give you a tweet. And I'm like, listen, I've already had enough abuse from Nigel's little fan club from when that hit the paper, because I was getting messages from people saying you're a fucking disgrace and you're sitting in your mum's basement, fucking Rain Man. And, they were calling me all sorts of geeky guys. And, I'm sitting in a basement and I've got nothing better to do. The abuse I got was insane from his fan club, if you like. And I'm like, I don't really want a tweet from Nigel, because all that's going to happen is I'm going to get fucking more abuse. That's not beneficial. And I said, listen, it's probably just better for me to keep this website and continue to tell stories about it at conferences and stuff, because obviously the educational side of don't let your domain name slip is really important, because when I present this, the reason I went after it is obviously it expired, but the amount of PR that Nigel Farage had in the backlink profile, money couldn't buy it. He had links from the BBC, Channel 4, fucking every press publication worldwide. Money couldn't buy that shit. So that's why I took it, from an educational standpoint, going, this is what an expired domain is, and that's what that guy's let go. Obviously, he so happened to be a political figure, which obviously fanned the flames and everything else. But it was more of an education thing for people as well. Just be careful with your domain names and assets, because that man's spent a lot of time marketing himself, and his marketing team weren't very clever and just let it go. And, here's another one. There's a music band out there called The Killers. They had the domain name thekillers.co.uk. And again, had been in every press publication known to man. When the .music domain name came out, their marketing team took it upon themselves to just dump the .co.uk and move over to .music. And I swooped in, and I am still the owner of The Killers. I also own craigdavid.co.uk and domains like that. And again, I didn't really do anything with them, but I could have. And that was the thing, you know, from educating people from a marketing perspective. I'm like, because people used to always say to me, Craig, expired domains don't come up that much, and you know, all of this stuff. And you're like, really? And I mean, they come up every fucking day of the week. You know, people go bust, people die, loads of things happen in life, and there's opportunity out there, and you need to be looking at it from a SEO perspective. There's power to be had, and you know, even someone like Nigel Farage let his domain name go, or Craig David, or whatever. So I was trying to do it from an educational standpoint as well, but obviously I flipped that and gained a lot of coverage from it as well. So it was twofold for me, and something I've spoken about at many conferences over the years, mate. So yeah, people know a lot about that one. I've told that one many times.
I was unaware of it, but it's fascinating, especially in the current situation where things might be going in the country and stuff. Well, the UK, it's a really interesting story. And like you say, really, we've been talking throughout this about controlling the narrative. If you don't even have control over your main sort of website domains, that's a problem.
One little add-on, because I have that domain name, I was able to claim his fucking knowledge panel and claim everything else. I was able to claim pretty much anything I wanted, including his social media profiles. I didn't do that. Info at was used to set up everything. So, but I claimed his knowledge panel as well.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's a great case study, for sure. And we'll finish off with this one because obviously you are so well known on YouTube. You know, your YouTube channel is so big. How's your YouTube channel become like a core part of how you educate and grow your audience? And what advice would you give to SEOs, digital marketing people building a personal brand today? Obviously, you're touching on what we just did, but you've done such a great job at it over the years. Obviously, things are changing a bit on how you can do it, but it seems now, I think everyone's waking up to the idea that either, and Jason said this, either you take control and build your personal brand or it will be built for you.
Yeah.
So how you've taken the initiative years ago to do it yourself. So how should people go about it?
I think, you know, it's fairly straightforward and easy. You've just got to be putting your face out there. If you don't do it, someone will eventually use AI and use your face to do it anyway. You might as well just fucking roll with it. But, you know, some people are, you know, I was always doing the kind of public speaking thing, and, you know, COVID kind of hit and I wasn't able to speak publicly. So I'd done more videos and stuff, and it kind of really took off because I was forced to. I didn't sit there going, I want to build a fucking YouTube channel. It just, because of COVID, you couldn't travel and people were desperate for information. It was just a timing thing. I did have some YouTube videos, and I used to do SEMrush webinars, you know, 2016, 17, 18, 19. Used to do all of that, but it wasn't really in my own channel. I used to do it on other people's channels or go on other people's podcasts. And obviously I was the host of SEMrush's webinar at a point. And I was comfortable doing it. But obviously when COVID hit, you're like, fuck, you know, people do like webinars and they do like all of that, and people still need to talk, people still need to ask questions. So it really kind of stemmed from there, in all honesty. And obviously I think timing was key, just because it was COVID and everything else. Also, some of the things that I'd done then, you can't do now. You could force people to subscribe to your YouTube channel. Back in the day, so I gave people access to a free SEO course, but I forced them to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I get 50,000 sign-ups overnight because it was COVID and all of that. But trying to replicate that just now would be hard because everyone's now doing it and stuff like that. But I still think, you know, I think I said to you before, you see guys trying to do podcasts now, they're trying to put their face out there, they're trying to build a personal brand, they're trying to show their personality, their knowledge, their experience. And I think that's certainly no bad thing to be doing. You know, it's why I used to enjoy SEMrush webinars. You used to go on there, there'd be 3 or 4 of you, and you'd be debating whether that worked, and people would ask questions, and it would just be good and healthy, but also you got exposure from it and stuff like that. And, you know, I think for any business now, in today's day and age, people don't want to see some shitty little blog. They want to see, are you a real guy? What do you talk like? Do you actually talk like you know what you're talking about? And stuff like that. And I certainly wouldn't buy from a blog or an SEO that I couldn't see and couldn't hear the voice, because I think you need to show your personality and you need to be able to talk in a way that people can say, he does seem to know what he's talking about. I think it builds trust. I think, you know, obviously utilising your personality and everything is not a bad thing. And you see live streamers, you know, I'm not talking about SEO guys, but there's live streamers out there, fucking, that's all they do. You know, they open fucking games and play games and fucking people are watching it. People consume content. People want fun, engaging content. And even in the SEO space, you know, I've done some stupid things and said things and done some fun videos and tried to add a bit of a fun element to it, because it's a boring topic if it was just to be very monotone. There's no fun shit in there. And again, going back to the Nigel Farage stuff, why did I do it? Was it naughty? Yeah, and I know it was naughty. I'm not daft. But I don't want to just sit there and say, I've got fucking xyz.com or whatever. It's just not fun. Like, no one cares. Whereas people cared that it was Nigel Farage, like, oh, fuck, you know, he shouldn't have done that. And so, you know, the human population like controversy and they like to see shit. And I think video is a great way to do it. I'm not saying YouTube's the only way. You've got TikTok, you've got Instagram lives, you've got other fucking things. And I think building a personal brand is a way to build trust, authority, and I think more and more people consume video content than they do blog posts as well. So I'm glad I've done it, and I would encourage anyone else to go and do it. You know, it's not hard, other than, like you say, you know, it's a time thing. You've interviewed people, you know, it can get repetitive and stuff, but SEO is repetitive as well. And you know, the way I used to always look at it is I used to do all the podcasts with all the SEO people and all that. And you started to hear the same thing over and over and over again. So that's why I eventually said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to interview any more SEO people. I'm going to interview business people. And now I'm actually going to launch a podcast, a new podcast. And I'm not going to interview SEO people at all. I'm just going to interview interesting people that I want to interview, not because they've got something to pitch, because they've got something interesting to say, or they've had a good journey, whether it be a footballer, whether it be a business person, whether it be, I don't know, someone that worked for some mad serial killer. I'd be like, come on, let's talk. Like, what was that fucking guy like? Was there any signs? Was there, like, give me the gossip? People like all of that as well. So I think trying to broaden your audience is good as well, because obviously when I've done it and built mines, I'm very, very niche to SEO. I'm, you know, and I'm in a position where I'm as known as I need to be in the SEO space. So how do I get slightly broader to business people and just to the general public? Because I think I've got good stories to tell. I've got good information. I think I'm a relatively nice guy, and how else am I going to get people to listen to me without broadening the topic of conversation? So don't be too niche would be my advice as well, you know, but attack these things, make it fun as well, because I interviewed a lot of SEO people and I'm sitting like that, fucking sleeping, and you know, they're pitching their shit and all that, and I'm like, fuck me, that's a hard listen. So yeah, it's but part of the journey, you have to go through it, you have to get time under your belt. I had to become more comfortable talking, better at speaking, and all of that. So that was all part of the apprenticeship, but just got to roll with it, mate. And I've been slaughtered for the mics I use, the cameras I use. I've tried different backgrounds. Just fucking go with it, man. No one fucking cares about all of that. Just go with the flow and make sure your audio's clear, and who cares what anyone else thinks would be my last bit of advice, because a lot of people have the fear of getting abuse, or, oh, fucking look at him, he said that, or whatever it may be. Doesn't matter who you are. Taylor Swift gets that. David Beckham gets that crap. Doesn't matter who you are. There's going to be some dork sitting somewhere that's going to say something negative. Just block and move on. Don't let it affect you personally. Because if you don't do it, someone else will, and they're going to be taken off your table effectively. So I think, in terms of marketing, putting yourself out there, I think it's a must-have in this day and age.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. I mean, like, yeah, at the very beginning, you are going to be rubbish at it. I mean, there's still a lot of room to grow for me, but I feel like definitely got better, and you start learning different things about how to communicate and how to approach the different topics and ask better questions and who to invite. And yeah, definitely about diversification of guests. I've had psychologists on it. I've had people talking about China, all the different things, like trying to be a bit more interested than the usual stuff that's going on in the video, because there's a lot of that. And yeah, don't give a crap what people think. Like you said, there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people jealous that you're doing it and they're not doing it because you've got, the guts to go on and put your face out there. So, it's just the way it is. That's just life. But you shouldn't worry about it. Just focus on your own journey and your own path. And if you've got the determination, the hard work, you will get to where you want to go, I believe. But yeah, as usual, very entertaining conversation, great stories. I loved all that. So yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, thanks. I know you don't do many of these, so thanks so much, Craig, for today.
No, it's always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure, and maybe we'll do it again sometime in the future. I've got plenty more stories, that's for sure.
I'll do some more digging.
Extract it, yeah. You need to extract it, dude, because certain things you've not asked. I blagged my way into being an actor. So if you go and Google Craig Campbell actor, you see a whole bunch of stuff there where I've been in movies and shit, and that all filled into the knowledge panel. But I could talk about a lot of that stuff all day, which ties in with SEO anyway, but I'll give you that little teaser. I blagged my way into being an actor just to get an IMDb profile, which I needed to trigger my knowledge panel. So I actually went on set. I've got pictures of me with guns and shooting people, and I was never an actor. I just fucking winged it and told them I was super experienced. And yeah, it's a big game, and you've just got to... That's link earning. Goes back to the topics we spoke about. Earning links, I fucking earned that. I had to film for 3 days, or whatever it was, 3-4 days maybe even, and for a link that I could now buy for fucking $30. So, but it was fun.
Wow. Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, I'll get you back on at some point. We'll go over all that. I'll do my deep dig and then see what we can do. But yeah, awesome. It's been fantastic. So yeah, have a good rest of the day, and we'll speak soon.
You too. Cheers, mate.